Hello YouTube, T-Bo Van Dam here with another YouTube video. And for those of you who are not familiar with my channel, I am a singer-songwriter based in Southeast London, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be breaking down my audio-visual setup, and I mentioned I was going to do this in my last video, and it's because I have a new AV setup, and it actually was quite tricky to figure out how to do this. It wasn't as intuitive as some other sort of sound solutions are. I basically figured out how to use my interface to record audio directly onto my camera as I record the video. And I'm going to break down exactly how I do that later in this video, but I started sort of reminiscing about all the audiovisual setups I've tried in the past, and I realized that I've been making videos on YouTube for about 8 years. I started in 2012, and I've tried a lot of different AV setups, and I realized actually I learned a lot over the years, and so I thought maybe I'd make a video sort of, you know, just as a record of all the different things I tried, because I have a lot of the old equipment I used still with me. And so I figured I could talk about what I used, what worked, and why not, and why. And I could also talk about what I learned. And let me think. I should also mention before getting into all of this that I am recording this on an iPhone SE. I'm doing this mostly out of necessity, just so I can actually show you the stuff that I use to record audio and video. But I'm hoping that this will actually be an added benefit just because it will demonstrate to you what you can get sort of in terms of sound, you know, compared to like the last video I made, which was with the DSLR and interface setup. So I'm hoping that this will be like sort of a little walk down memory lane. But if you find this helpful, you know, that's really what my goal is, because I realize a lot of this stuff took me a long time to learn, but actually it would have been, it doesn't take a lot of time to actually learn any of this stuff. It's more just like that you have to be looking for it too. So I guess it's all part of the process, I suppose. But I hope anyone watching this finds this interesting or helpful. So without further ado, let's get into it. I started making YouTube videos in 2012. And for a few years up until then, I was actually recording my videos directly onto Facebook. I was using it as the platform just because I had a Facebook account and they had an integrated video sort of feature. I decided to switch it to YouTube because it's a more universal platform and you get a larger audience for sure. And I realized that YouTube also offered a lot of sort of ways to control the channel and the content I released. So at this time, I was basically writing new music, and I thought to myself that I wanted to share this with people because I thought it sounded quite different and unusual. And yeah, I had to get it out of my system sort of. And so I was recording my videos with a MacBook Pro from 2011. I was using the webcam that was built in and the built-in mic. And as you can expect, the audiovisual quality was like leaving quite a lot to be desired. But I realized my first important lesson right here, which is actually that the fact that I was writing new music and the fact that I wanted to share it, that I actually even had the desire to share it with people, is definitely way more important than whether or not it looked like, you know, kind of junky, really. And I just think that that's true, not just with music, but honestly with just anything. It's not about the medium, it's all about like what you're actually saying to people. The other thing that I realized through this setup is, and I've come to greatly appreciate it as time has gone on, but I actually really love how seamless the setup was. Basically having the audio and video recorded to the same file and then sharing that was just really handy, and it meant that I was focusing on getting better performances in the videos instead of focusing on editing and making it look better than maybe it was. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with editing. If anything, I'd like to learn how to do that too. I just decided as a performing musician that I wanted to get better at performing. So in 2014, I decided to upgrade my phone to an iPhone 4S, which I still have, just kind of as a backup. And the front-facing camera on this was all right, I guess. It was better than the built-in webcam anyway. And I was using this and the microphone on this phone to just record my videos with. And while I didn't learn a whole lot, I sort of realized, basically, if you remember at this time, sort of 2014, the iPhone was like huge. And basically the way it was being pitched to the public was not just as a device to phone people or watch YouTube videos, but it was actually being featured as kind of like this thing that you could create with. You could make like a feature film with your iPhone. That was like kind of the ideal sort of use of it in some ways. Like, you know, they were trying to make it this multi-purpose, like Swiss Army knife of a device. And so alongside that, there was a lot of developments of sound solutions, basically third-party companies basically making sound solutions for the iPhone to improve the sound quality, to use it more as an audio recording device. And this got me thinking more about sound solutions and the idea that you could improve audio using equipment, basically. It sort of opened up, in a way, sort of a can of worms, but also a really good thing. Because figuring out sound solutions is not just about buying lots of stuff, which, as many people refer to as gear acquisition syndrome. It's also about like thinking about the space you're in and how to get the most out of that space. And so I was thinking about that a whole lot more. But nonetheless, I knew that the iPhone was not going to cut it. So I decided by the end of 2014 to invest in 3 pieces of equipment. One of them was definitely the Scarlet 2i4. And I got this mostly to make demos and record at home. And I never thought I could use it with YouTube. But these 2 other pieces of equipment I got expressly to use with my iPhone, and with the plan of making better quality YouTube videos with them. And that included the Tascam IM2, which is a microphone of itself. It basically plugs into the phone here. And yeah, it just records directly into this, and these are directional mics. And then the other device I got was the iRig Pre, which is a preamp, so it's not a microphone. It's a preamp which kind of amplifies the sound of a microphone. And so using an XLR cable, I can connect a mic, and I can then basically plug this into the iPhone using this TRRS 1/8" jack. And this is basically like one of these preamps. It doesn't sound as nice, but honestly, there's no noise on it, so I was pretty pleased. And this taught me an extremely valuable lesson, not just for making YouTube videos, but actually for also general just audio engineering, which is that mic placement is everything. So the real problem with the IM2 is that the microphones, in order to record the sound and also capture me in the video, the phone had to be about 3 to 5 feet away from me. So now the mic is that far, and so it was recording a lot of room noise. You're probably hearing a lot of room noise right now, and that's because the microphone is built into the phone, and the phone is 3 to 5 feet away, I'd say. And the difference is that the iRig Pre basically made it necessary that I had to plug in an XLR microphone, which was another cable, more equipment, but it was a good trade-off because it basically meant I could move the microphone closer to my guitar and my voice, and I could just get a lot less ambient noise, because this is the sound of an untreated room, and you can hear it's kind of clangy and probably like bleh. So I thought, how do I improve that? Well, this was like, it taught me a lot about mic placement. So I used this for a long period of time after, and then I basically started exploring film photography in 2015, which isn't immediately related to my YouTube channel, but basically in 2019 I decided to get my first DSLR, which is a Canon 200D. I did a lot of research about this camera as well, so I might even make a video where I talk about why I chose this, just because there was a lot of great options out there, but I think I'm really satisfied with the choice I made. But I basically decided to get a DSLR because film photography is expensive to do, and I wanted to continue taking photos, and also an added benefit of a DSLR is that it can shoot video, pretty high quality video, and I thought if only I could get this to work with YouTube. So ever since last summer, I've basically just been spending time trying to figure out how to get a good microphone into this camera, and you can see here that there's this 1/8" TRS input. So I immediately started thinking of sound solutions, basically, just like I was doing in 2014 with the iPhone. I was thinking, how do I sort of improve the audio quality going into this? Because the built-in mic is pretty rubbish, if I'm honest. Rubbish. Anyway, and the iRig Pre was the first obvious solution, right? It was because it's got the 1/8" jack. But the problem is that this is a TRRS, so it transfers headphone data and also microphone data. So in order to use this, I actually had to get a splitter. And then at this point, I was using this, the XLR, the mic, the camera, the tripod. It was like a lot of stuff, and I decided that it just wasn't worth it. It was the law of diminishing returns. I put in a little bit more, but honestly, I already had this, so it wasn't like a huge expense getting this. This was a few bucks. But I decided it just didn't make sense. I could get a pretty decent video with my iPhone and just plug this directly in. It saved me a whole lot of time. And again, this is all a battle of quality versus convenience, really. That's what it comes down to. So the next sound solution I tried was the Tascam DR40. And I no longer own one of these, but the long story short is that this is a field recorder and that the noise floor was too loud when using a dynamic mic. So it just didn't make sense. The whole point here was to get better audio, and there was this kind of internal self-noise hiss that just really was distracting. And I think I have one video up which has that, so I'll post that in the description. There's actually also a review of the Tascam DR40 by a guy named Julian Cross. I'll post that as well. And then the final solution was basically to use the Focusrite 2i4. And I tried this about 9 months ago and it didn't work. And then sometime in May, I tried something a little bit different with the same device, same camera, and I got great results. And so this is the point in the video where I'm going to basically break down exactly how I did that. So what I do is I basically plug in my mics. I get a decent level, which is fairly strong, but I also tweak them a little bit to get a mix. Then I use the input playback knob. I set it fully to, you can see here, I set it fully to input. And what that allows, basically what that does is it gets all the information going into these preamps to come back out of the system, either through the headphone output or back on the RCA or the quarter inch, the quarter inch jacks. Next, I have to set the monitor volume to about 75%. And on the camera itself, there's a setting for using external mics. That has to be at the absolute minimum. I just know this, I learned this. If I can find a video explaining why, I'll post that in the description as well. But that has to be set to the absolute minimum. And then this begs the final question, how do you physically connect these two? And there is a jack in this world that exists, which is an RCA to 1/8 inch TRS. And you can see tip, ring, sleeve, which means it only transfers the microphone data, which is what the Canon needs, basically, just microphone data, not the mic and the headset. And voila, now I'm able to basically record good quality microphones with good preamps into this. I can use phantom power, so I can also use really nice condensers if I want. And my favorite part about this setup really is how stable it is. There's very few variables now. With other setups, there have been variables like the Tascam, for instance. The mics have to be in the right position, and yeah, basically there are fewer variables. Nothing about the setup that I showed just now. Nothing about that changes. The only thing that changes is mic placement and the performance, and both of those are really skills that just require doing it over and over again until you get good at it. So I'm pretty pleased with this new setup, but I am actually really interested in what you think. Do you think that the sound on this video, which is shot again, just to remind you, with an iPhone SE, do you think that this is drastically worse than my last video? Or if you go back to some of my other videos, I'll probably post one, but where I'm using the iRig, do you think that the audio in that video is even better than the DSLR? You know, because actually I feel like this sound is quite a natural sound, because the mic just is generally closer to me. But, you know, so I get best of both worlds. I get a good mix of vocals and also guitar, but I get a little bit less room noise. So, you know, I feel like in my mind, it's something that 424 recording Mike Parrish talks about quite a bit, but kind of the cure for that thing I mentioned before, gear acquisition syndrome, is basically to try to get the most out of your equipment that you have. You know, because then you really feel like you're using your stuff, you realize the value of it. So if I'm doing video with the DSLR, I'm doing YouTube videos with this onto the DSLR, I'm really getting the most, because I already use both of these for different things anyway. So if I can take these both to the next level on my YouTube channel, honestly, like, I feel like I'm getting the most out of it. And I mean, so my intuition says use the best mics, use the best of everything I have, you know, but actually there is a point where it's more convenient basically using something like this. So yeah, please let me know what you think in your comments below. If you have any recommendations of something I didn't mention, please, you know, write that too, because I'm always looking to improve. I just want to take this time now to just thank all my subscribers, because I have broken sort of 50 subscribers, and I have been doing this a while, and getting more subscribers was never sort of my goal. It was never really my priority, but I really love that people appreciate what I do, and, you know, it does make me feel accountable. So if you do like what I do, if you like this video, or just sort of how I do my channel, please subscribe, because I will be making new content soon, definitely with this new AV setup. And yeah, and if you like this video, if you find it interesting or helpful, please, you know, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, I already know the next video I'm going to make, and stay tuned for that. Ciao for now.